You've come to the right place if you're looking to create, launch, and scale a high-value online training program. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of LifterLMS, the most powerful learning management system for WordPress. Stay to the end. I've got something special for you. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by a special guest. His name is Derek Ashauer. He's from conversionbridgewp.com. We're going to nerd out today on analytics, conversion tracking. What is a conversion? Why does that matter for online course websites, coaching businesses, even LMSs doing internal training for a company? We're going to go deep today. Head on over to conversionbridgewp.com so you can see what we're talking about today. But first, welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Chris.
I'm excited to nerd out with you a little bit on conversion tracking. It's a big topic, and I think the base level is people want to know what caused a sale, whether they're selling courses or memberships or whatever. But just at a kind of fundamental level, how do you define conversions to a beginner so they really grasp the concept?
So conversion is just when someone takes an action that you want to keep track of. It could literally be anything from clicking a button or even just visiting a page, as simple as that, signing up for your email newsletter, making a purchase. There's submitting a form. Those are all pretty common things that we want to track on a website.
Awesome. And what do you think is like the first place, like if somebody wants to get set up for conversion tracking, like what are the fundamental pieces that they need to put together to do that? Like what do they need with a WordPress website?
The first thing is getting an analytics platform. So the most typical one that people have heard of for over a decade now is Google Analytics. But these days, there's a lot of other options that are privacy focused ones because of all the EU privacy laws. There's some great ones that are out there: Plausible, Fathom, Persh, User Maven. Conversion Bridge itself integrates with 13 at the moment different analytics platforms beyond just Google Analytics.
What like for the WordPress people out there, what plugins can Conversion Bridge track conversions for? I know there's a long list, but like let's expand the scope of what's possible here.
Yeah, so of course there's LifterLMS is one of them, but at the moment of right now of recording this, there's 51
Mm.
different plugin integrations. So there's all the form plugins that you can think of: WS Form, Gravity Forms, WP Forms, all the ones that you would expect. E-commerce platforms: WooCommerce, Easy Digital Downloads. There's what else? There's a bunch of newsletter ones like Groundhog, or CRMs and newsletter ones. Groundhog, for example, those track when people sign up for your email newsletter forms are on there. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. I'm trying to go there right now to even remind myself. There's so many. Let's see. We got some page builders. The big page builders are on there as well. Beaver Builder. Let's see. Beaver Builder, Bricks, Cadence, Elementor. So that you can, makes it really easy, simple toggle to set up conversion tracking on a button on there, even form modules or widgets, whatever one, they call it. Call to actions and things like that. So it integrates with all those things. So yeah, there's just so many of them. There's even some pop-up integrations, pop-up that show up, so that when you show a pop-up, do they subscribe or do they click on the button within that pop-up? That could be another great one that you'd want to keep track of. There's even file downloads. So there's a couple plugins that are built specifically to help to organize file downloads, so you can track when those. Maybe you offer a white paper and you want to track whenever someone downloads one of your free white papers on your website as a lead magnet or something along those lines. So those are all a bunch of different types of plugins and things that you may want to be tracking conversions for.
Love that. And let's zoom out even more and let's actually use that white paper ebook download example. I think it makes sense that you would want to track like, oh, well, how many opt-in conversions, email addresses am I capturing? that from people that want the ebook.
Mhm.
But what if they land on a page to download and then they don't actually download it? What if I knew
Right.
that conversion point? So you start
Exactly.
chaining these things together. Like, what are some of the most popular ways to think about conversions and like situations that people would want to do without like, well, I want to track everything. Well, you don't necessarily want to track everything. Like, what are the
Mhm.
important things?
Yeah. So what you started describing is called a funnel.
Yeah.
So you get them to visit your homepage, your website. You then get them to go to another page that maybe talks about their email newsletter, get them to subscribe, and then that gets them to a page where they download, and those are funnels. And so that's a common thing is to track where do people do how many people complete an entire funnel, where do they exit that funnel, and so you got to track when they take each one of those steps. And then you set up your funnels. Some of the analytic platforms are better than the others, but you'd want to set up your funnel: homepage visit, newsletter subscribe, visit the download page, and then actually download the document in the end. And you can track, you know, of the 100% of the people that visit my homepage, 50% of them hit this one page that I want them to visit. Of those 50%, 30% of them subscribed. Of those, X amount did this. And if you notice there's a huge, massive drop off at one point in that funnel, you can say, oh, there's something wrong with this page. What am I doing wrong? What could I improve it? Maybe, you know, you got a whole bunch of people to that download page and nobody downloads it. Well, maybe there's a technical issue. Maybe you just forgot to, the download button, a link just doesn't exist, or it's hidden, or it's hard to find, or there's some wording that doesn't make it clear what they should do on that page. So you can really determine how to improve your conversion rate on that page.
Let's educate you out there watching or listening on like there's the perfect funnel, like where somebody goes through that flow you mentioned of homepage, opt-in, download,
Mhm.
and then maybe they purchase a product. But oftentimes that doesn't happen on one website visit. Or maybe they don't go through the thing in a certain order. And so how do you help people understand conversion tracking? Like, is it staying with them even if that whole process takes 30 days and then they maybe they did some other stuff on the
Mhm.
website and it just didn't perfectly go through the funnel? How does that work, or how should people think about that?
Well, yeah, that's a challenge in modern websites with privacy stuff. It becomes harder to do that, to track an exact user or across this. How do you tell if someone maybe they subscribed while they were on their computer, and then the next day they get the email and they're using it on their phone. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, there's not a great way to connect that same person,
Mhm.
because they're on different devices, and now that counts as a whole separate person. So a lot of the conversion stuff, you're never going to get 100% accuracy of this exact person who's, that Jane Doe who sat down on this one device and then maybe use another device, or, that kind of stuff. It's not going to be perfect. Um, but you go with, generalizations in some ways, like 30%, roughly 30%. We never go 32.339% of people did this. There's no way to be perfect with it. So that's when we're looking at our analytics, we just kind of tell how many people hit this page, X amount of people left, or this amount of people converted. And now when they downloaded, how many, or they, once they've opted in, how many ended up clicking on that link and going to the download page. And we mark that as a conversion and things like that. Um, and we just do it on overall numbers of traffic. And Conversion Bridge itself does have a conversion journey tool to it. So what that means is that if it is the same person using the same browser, because that's how it's tracked, it's kind of uses their browser and some other stuff, and anonymizes it so that we don't have any personally identifiable information, but then keeps track of that person so we can see what exact pages they did view throughout the entire journey. But like I said, if they jump to a mobile device in the middle of that journey, that does count as a whole separate user, and view and stuff like that. So um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of
Well,
lost track of the original question.
no, you got it there. So, it's kinda like there's these conversion points, and
Yeah,
then Conversion Bridge calls it a journey, which
yeah,
is like a funnel, So
Mhm,
like the individual elements, and then that path is the funnel or the
mhm,
journey. So you kind of look at metrics over time. What happens? You mentioned if they're in the same browser, but let's say they did each stage of the funnel a day apart, meaning
mhm,
the computer closed and got turned off and opened
mhm.
again. Does it still know anonymously that that user is the same person?
It depends on the analytics platform, that you use. Google Analytics will be better. There's some plausible and some other ones. There's a handful that take privacy very seriously, and to their credit, they're very serious about that. And that it doesn't track a user um, and across multiple pages. What it basically does is just tracks how many people in general came to a page. It doesn't know that they went from one page to the next. And that's what most analytics is. So that's why we're playing this game of how do we determine what steps does a one specific user take. A lot of the more privacy focused analytics, and even Google Analytics is having challenges with this to also obey all the privacy laws, is what, step by step, what did that person do on your website. Conversion Bridge itself does, like I said, adds a little bit that in between. It does add that, so it does have the conversion journeys. So when someone does do a conversion, like make a purchase, sign up for something, you can then see what was the first page they hit, what was the second, third, fourth, fifth, and all the steps that they took in between. But when you're looking at just your analytics platform, that data and that exact journey, you're never going to get that. You usually get maybe an entry point where they started, and then that they actually did a conversion, but that's about the most. And that's also another area where Conversion Bridge itself helps give you some extra data to learn. Oh, I'm noticing people are going from here to here to here. Of the people that convert and buy something on my website or signed up, I noticed that a lot of them are going to my about page and then my services page, and then they buy, or whatever that flow may be. And you can start to learn a little bit about what is important to your users and and to keep improving that content, or making that content easier to get to in some ways, because you know that that's the content that really gets people down that path to ultimately converting.
Love that. Let's talk a little bit more about conversion rate optimization
Mhm.
because it's really easy to get really busy in marketing doing a
Yeah.
lot of different things. But
Mhm.
if you have this journey like homepage or visit the site, downloads the lead magnet, the opt-in newsletter, whatever, and then buys like a cheap product, maybe it's a trial or a little mini course or something like that, and then they buy the big product or the
Mhm.
membership or the signature course or whatever. That's like 4 steps, and if you, like, just build your marketing and allocated your time around optimizing those, it makes a lot of sense. But what kind of things can people change, or work on to test a theory on, "Oh, maybe if I do X, I can increase my conversion rate at all those stages?" I think there's, like, a one in marketing circles that has been around forever, which, like, "Oh, maybe you should change the button color," or something like that, but, like,
Yeah.
what else can people do?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a big thing of what I think, like orange or something like that, I think was the
Yeah.
best buy now color or something like that at
Then
one point.
everybody had orange buttons. I still have
Yeah,
orange buttons on my website,
yeah,
but, yeah. What
yeah.
else can they do?
Yeah, I mean, you could literally change every last little pixel on your page. It could be
Mhm,
down to copy, to placement of that button. What does that button text say? Does it say buy now or purchase now?
mhm.
Try now? There you could literally put any word on there and see you know, what that does to your conversion rate. It's a challenge because, if you have a small website, you have to let that run for a while. You need a lot of data. And so what we're talking about right now is what some people might have heard is called like A/B testing, ABC testing. You can run unlimited different tests on a page. Um, and usually you only want to make one, maybe two changes to a page. You don't want to, you could, have two wholly separate designs, two versions of that page, but then you don't know what about that is what actually caused an increase or decrease in your conversions. So making small changes at a time. And it depends on your traffic. If you're only getting 20 people a day to your site, you might have to wait 6 months to a year to get enough data to even see if that's enough. But it's worth playing with those things to try it, give it yourself a little bit of time. I think some people get impatient and think that after a week or two they'll have enough data to make a decision. But yeah, you can play with everything. The headline at the top. Is that telling people what they really need to know about your product or service in order to convert? Where's that button on the page? Is it right underneath the headline? Do I need to list the price next to the button, or do I make it a little more vague and say buy now and there's no price included? All those are different kind of things you can try.
So there are tools for A/B testing, split testing. Um, I'd be curious if you know any that you might recommend for WordPress websites, but I'd also like to say that you can kind of do it the more rough way and just like, okay, I'm going to change this for a month. I'm not going to change a million other things.
Yeah.
Wait another month, and then make sure the traffic was more or less equal and get a. You don't have to get into these fancy tools of A/B testing, but
Mhm.
how does one kind of get into the A/B testing where it literally splits the traffic 50-50 with different paths?
Yeah, that used to be done. There used to be Google Optimize, but
Yeah,
unfortunately they shut that down, so that's not really available. Yeah, there's I think it's Funnel Kit might have an A/B one,
yeah.
A/B plug tool to it. Yeah, there really isn't one, and uh, yeah, that is something that is in the back of my mind and is in regards to Conversion Bridge itself.
Nice.
Honestly, you kinda honestly wasn't planning on talking about that, but it's on a list for Conversion Bridge as having an A/B tool. So yeah, because it when Google Optimize disappeared, that and everything was there's so many tools that were built around using Google Optimize and Google Analytics as a way to do A/B testing, and now that's gone. So there really isn't too much. It is significantly harder these days to do A/B testing.
Let's talk about analytics platforms. A lot of people get frustrated, myself included, with Google Analytics. It's
Mhm.
kind of hard to figure out. The interface changes a lot, and getting the right report I want to try to see is a little difficult. Um, but it's not always the case that you should abandon ship and go somewhere else. But
Mhm.
what's your advice to somebody who's like, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with Google Analytics? What should
Mhm.
they do to either know they should stay or check out these other tools?
So one great thing about Conversion Bridge is that it integrates with 13 analytic platforms right now, and you can enable all 13 of them at the exact same time if you wanted to. I do it while I'm testing. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. The analytics platforms themselves are very lightweight JavaScript that gets added to the page. Um, I'm sure your theme probably adds 100 times more JavaScript than these analytic platforms do. So it's great. You could test multiple different analytics platforms at once and while maintaining your Google Analytics. You're not losing any of your Google Analytics data, but you could try, say, Fathom, Plausible, Persh, User Maven, any of these other great tools. They also have, many of them have free trials, or they're free while you're under a certain amount of page visits. So you could run it for a few weeks, see, and then see and test and see what you like about these other analytic platforms. I agree with you. It's one reason why I created Conversion Bridge is because when GA4 came out, I was like, what do I do? I don't
Mhm.
understand. Where did all these simple reports go?
Mhm.
When I was doing sites for clients, I could often set up Google Analytics and say, here you go log in. And they'd be, oh, this is great. And they could figure it out pretty simple. I never had to walk through Google Analytics itself to explain what it was and what the data meant. And now with GA4, even I, as someone who's been making websites for 20 years, I'm like, what? That was my first. I spent a while and I still struggle to figure it out. Doing Conversion Bridges forced me to take the time and do that. But something that requires a week-long course to use, I think, is like Google Analytics should just look at basic traffic data is over-engineered. If you go to any of these alternative analytic platforms, it's a single page. It's incredibly easy to digest and understand. You could send it to any client, or anyone I think could figure out what the data is and what it means within a few minutes. So yeah, I would recommend trying some of them out. Um, Pretty much all of them have a free trial at this point. So
I know Conversion Bridge is impartial to, like, which one you choose,
yeah.
but sometimes it's helpful for people to know, like, well, if you're kind of frustrated with Google Analytics, maybe try brand X next.
Mhm.
Like, maybe it's, like, pretty popular and a lot of people like it. Is that like Fathom or like
I
yeah.
think each one has its pros and cons. If you have like a blogging site, Fathom's a great one. And you just have some information. You have a newsletter sign up. Some of the other ones, like maybe User Maven or Persh, are better. They're improving a lot faster and have a lot more robust reporting tools and funnels that you can set up and things like that. Um, and those are great if you're doing more advanced things like an e-commerce website, where you want to send in more complicated data. Plausible is another one that can accept that. And what I mean by complicated data is, like, for example, say you're selling widgets. You have a $5 widget and a $500 widget. And you go there and you say, okay, well, this ad that I ran on Google Ads, it gave me 10 sales of my $5 widget, or this ad led to 2 sales of my $500 widget. You wanna know which one's getting you more money, maybe not necessarily more sales. So in some platforms, it's very simple. It's you just get the number of sales, because I can't, as Conversion Bridge, I can't send the data about how much the sale was worth. But in other platforms, I can send that data in. So that is, that's a good important metric that you would want to keep track of. And if you go to the Conversion Bridge website, on the bottom, there's a link to a comparison of all the different analytics platforms. And one of those is does it have advanced e-commerce um, tracking and abilities. And so that's, if your site is doing that, then that is important. If you're only doing like a blogging site and maybe you're doing a newsletter subscribe, you could probably work with any of the analytics platforms, because all you care about is, did someone subscribe? Did someone read a page? Did someone do that? So on and so forth. And so those lower level or more simplistic analytics platforms would be perfectly fine.
Let's speak to the non-developers out there who are busy doing a lot of things and, setting up an analytics platform. It often is like, okay, here's this code, install it or give
Yeah.
it to your developer. And that creates a lot of friction.
Yeah.
Um, so how does Conversion Bridge, like, talk about the setup and how
Mhm.
people get started with it?
So you install a plugin like you would with any WordPress plugin. And then there's, first thing you do is you select your analytics platform. And all you have to do is toggle a little on switch for which analytics platform you're using. And then each platform gives you a unique ID. Each one calls it something different, but there's some kind of unique ID for it. And you just copy and paste that unique ID and you're done. It's added all the core tracking code to the website. So there's no, where do I add the code? How do I add the code? There's no, get those plugins that where you do insert the header and footer and all that kind of stuff. You just
Yeah.
have to cut and paste that, random character string that identifies your site, and you're done. You now have your analytics tracking code on the website. Next step, you go to the integrations tab in Conversion Bridge, and there you'll see a list of all the plugins that you have installed that Conversion Bridge works with. So very simple outlines. Here are the ones. Here's the ones that I can add conversion tracking for. All you have to do is click a toggle, and you are done for almost for every integration. Some integrations require a little bit extra, one extra step. For example, like forms, because conversion tracking can be enabled on each individual form. Maybe some forms are just an internal thing or using it for something obscure. You don't really need to get conversion tracking on it. But maybe there's more public facing forms. So that's why conversion tracking allows you to enable tracking on a per form basis. But when you go to edit your form, it's the same thing. It's just toggle, done. And that's all you got to do.
Right on. Yeah, that's a huge time saver. I think we lost your video, but
Yep.
it's cool. We can keep going.
Um, I'll switch to, oh, there it goes.
What I know there's a lot of stuff in the news. You mentioned earlier about um privacy, and if you're selling to an international audience, um and I know there's two parts to this question. Another part is I think Apple and certain browsers take like a different approach. Just what should people know if they're trying to sell to the whole world? They don't necessarily care what browser they're on or if they're on an iPhone or something else, other
Mhm.
device. Like, do privacy focused analytics platforms track better or mostly just like respect better or respect privacy more? Or let's dig in a little bit on privacy.
Yeah, so those alternative analytics platforms, by their nature, are privacy focused. That's why they were all developed, was to solve that problem that Google Analytics was causing for a lot of people who lived in countries or got traffic from countries where they really needed to respect the privacy of the users. So those are, inherently private. Um, it does come with the downsides that, that level of detail that Google Analytics used to be able to get because they could just violate, that user's privacy and just keep tracking them no matter what. It comes with some trade-offs. So that's why earlier when we talked about, the exact user and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's what's great about those is that you don't need a cookie banner for any of those alternative platforms. That's another reason why I got into this realm is because I did not want to have cookie banners on my website. And so I started investigating alternative platforms.
Oh,
Um,
that's super cool. So like if you don't like track them with cookies, then you don't need that opt-in thing for
well,
cookie
this is my,
consent.
this is my current understanding.
Yeah.
So again, I am not a lawyer to preface, but this is my current understanding. Just because you have cookies doesn't mean you have to have a cookie notice. If you're tracking personally identifiable information, then you need a cookie notice. Personally identifiable information is stuff like IP address, their browser, their city. It doesn't have to be their name and email. It could be even something as vague as some of those other things. So that's what these alternative analytics platforms are doing is that they are tracking in a way that doesn't grab personally identifiable information. And thus, then you no longer need to have a cookie banner on your website. There may be something else on your website that is causing you to need to get a cookie banner, and that's something that you have to research on your own. But using those, you'll see the plausible, Fathom, all those ones. They'll specifically say you do not need a cookie banner by using because you use our product.
Do you have
There we go.
you're back. Do you have a like a take on um when I'm trying to remember my thought. There was a it'll come back to me. But let me see if I can grab the thread of where I was thinking. Oh, conversion value. So like
Mhm,
sometimes like in Google Analytics when you set up events
mhm,
and you're like, "Hey, what's a" like at Lifter for example, we have a free plugin download um page which has a form and an opt-in. And let's say in our view, based on looking at the data, that's I'm just pulling a number out of the air, that's like worth $20 or an
mhm,
email subscriber is worth whatever, $4. Is
mhm.
that can you help unpack that the theory behind assigning values like monetary values beyond outside of e-commerce, why some people do that?
I think I struggle to find use cases for it, to be honest, as well. I mean, because you can do the math yourself. Honestly, and a lot of that stuff, you go, okay, well, I got 57 email newsletter subscribers. It's which one has better value to you? Do you sign that's a value of one? Well, I just know that newsletter subscribers are usually worth about $1 a piece. So conversion bridge makes it available. You can, put in a value for every single conversion, a custom value, whether they submit a form, sign up for an email newsletter, all that kind of stuff. If it's a purchase, the value is the value of the purchase itself, that numerical number. But but yeah, I don't actually have a great answer for you on that one.
I think it comes from when people get into paid advertising and they're not going straight for the sale. They're like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
want them to book an appointment.
Mhm.
And there's like a 6-week sales cycle. And I know my appointments convert at this rate. So to tell if I can get ROAS or return on ad spend,
Mhm.
I need to they kind of put that value in there to make sure their ads are running profitably. I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like if I ran this ad for, we spent $5,000 on this ad and we got, 500 email newsletter subscribers, you can just go, was that worthwhile? Because I know how much an average newsletter subscriber is to me. Um, what that monetary value is. So, like I said, that one I don't have a great answer for you, but Conversion Bridge makes it available if you want to
To do
if
it
you
that
want to
way.
do that. So, yeah, if you
Yeah.
need to go that route.
Is there any more you would like to say on ads? Because I feel like ads is where
Mhm,
people really get focused on conversion. Because
mhm.
especially if you're going to start shelling out like $30 a day or $300 a day or
Yeah,
$3,000 a day, you don't want to just have a blindfold on and then be like, I hope this is working. Like,
yep.
tell us how to think about ads, analytics, and conversions on our site and how they work together.
Yeah, so in my latest release 1.3, it was a big update for to work better with Google Ads, especially for those who are not using Google Analytics.
Mm,
Everyone kind of makes the assumption I'm doing Google Ads, I have to use Google Analytics. Well, Conversion Bridge makes it very easy in a no-code way to track those conversions, even if I was using an alternative analytic platform. So ads, it's very similar to what we were talking about earlier with kind of A/B testing your web page is you run a bunch of ads and you want to see what actually gets people to take an action to convert. Whether it's newsletter signups or purchases, whatever that, or filling out a request for a quote form if you're like an agency or something like that. Um, yeah, I mean it's important to track all those. You got to do that, and what's great is also by converting those ads, um, Google Analytics. Say you write 10 ads. Sorry, if you write 10 ads in Google Ads, you can actually set Google Ads to automatically optimize those which ads they show based on which ones are performing better. Well, you have to tell Google Ads which ones are performing better by telling it which ones are converting.
right.
So that's what Conversion Bridge does. It says, hey, this person, bought something. Tell Google Ads, hey, this, we got a conversion. We got a conversion. And Google Ads, okay, who is this person? They've been kind of, tracking it, and then they can say, all right, we know that we can tie this back to this ad type thing.
So it's not just like building a bridge that goes one way from your website to the analytics platform. It can they can communicate both ways.
Um,
Maybe that's a bad metaphor, but
yeah, I'm trying to unpack that one.
I'm going with the bridge there because I
Yeah.
that's cool. I didn't even realize that. I didn't even really realize that part about doing Google Ads and
Mhm.
split testing over there and optimizing because it knows the
Yeah,
conversion.
because you want
Yeah,
to see which ads are performing better, so you can kind of get a better idea of, hey, if I've written, it's always great to write a whole bunch of different variations of your ad, and then run them and see which one gets better performance.
but you can do that with even if you're not using Google Analytics for your conversion tracking.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
because
pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because if you fall in love with, like, a different platform, but you still wanna use Google Ads I
Mhm.
didn't even know that you're I thought you were just married. "Okay, I'm in Google, so I Google Ads, I need to use Google Analytics." I didn't realize that.
And Google purposely wants you to think that. So it's not. Yeah.
What, what are some of the common like, of the people who are coming into Conversion Bridge, what are some of their most common, like, first steps when they get started? They've installed the plugin, they've chosen their analytics platform, it's syncing correctly.
Mhm.
What would be, like, step 1, 2, and 3 from there?
From there, just checking it every once in a while to make sure that you're, confirm that when you get a purchase or whatever conversion that you go into your analytics platform and make sure that they're there. Um, you know, and then from there, it's what we talked about as well. You just let it run for a while, get some good data. Say, you learn that for every 100 people who come to this page, 3% of them convert. And then you can go, what can we do to try and improve that? And I know a common question that people ask is what's a good conversion rate? depends on what you're trying to measure. Every single thing is different. Every single industry is different. It's the goal is to just get better than what you had last month. So it's hard to say, and there's so many factors that can affect that. So then at that point, it's once you start having some data, it's doing the conversion rate optimization. It's playing with your content, playing with your website design, playing with your pricing, playing with your placement of things like that, and just trying different things and see if there's stuff that you can do to increase that conversion rate over time.
I love that. So if you are flying blind without conversion or analytics for your
Mhm.
website, I mean, this is like marketing is artistic and creative, but it's also very scientific. We're on the
Yes.
scientific side here,
Yeah.
and you can use art and science together to grow your traffic, increase your sales, improve user behavior on your website, whatever you want them to do. This has been a great chat, Derek. What's the best way for people to get started with Conversion Bridge?
Visiting the website, there's conversionbridgewp.com. You can go in there and learn about all the different integrations and analytics platforms. Learn about, like I said, there's a comparison table with some. I've started to write some reviews about each of the platforms themselves, so you can take a look and give it a shot and give it a go.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. In my opinion, everybody should set up their analytics integration with their WordPress website from the very beginning. It's like part of the
Absolutely.
launch of the website. So if you haven't done it yet, don't feel bad. But let's get it done. Head on over to conversionbridgewp.com. Derek, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMS Cast. Did you enjoy that episode? Tell your friends and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And I've got a gift for you over at LifterLMS.com/gift. Go to LifterLMS.com/gift. Keep learning, keep taking action, and I'll see you in the next episode.